Hello from the Hello from Vancouver in British Columbia, Canada. My name is Brian Davies, and I am honored to have been nominated by the Canadian Institute of Geomatics for the Vice President position for the International Federation of Surveyors for the 2023-2026 term. And I look forward to your support and consideration as I pursue this goal. The Canadian Institute of Geomatics is Canada's oldest surveying and mapping organization, and I'm proud to have been president from 2017 to 2019. Originally known as the Canadian Institute of Surveying and founded in 1882, the Canadian Institute of Geomatics has a broad mandate to represent the diverse aspects of geomatics in Canada, including surveying, charting, remote sensing, navigation, geographic information systems, and cartography. It wasn't long ago that the explorers and voyageurs were navigating and surveying their way across this vast expanse of land. But in the true spirit of truth and reconciliation, we recognize and acknowledge that we live and prosper on the unceded traditional lands of Indigenous peoples from many communities across the lands we now call Canada. And we are grateful for the opportunity to work with the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people who continue to live on these lands to create a safer and more abundant future for all. I have quite an extensive background in geomatics, starting as a geophysical land surveyor and progressing to director of geomatics for a large international geophysical company, which took me all over the world. I began my career in British Columbia and over the years acquired skills in land surveying, navigating hydrographic surveys, mining surveys, geophysical surveys, and completing regional GNSS networks in multiple countries. I not only worked as a survey supervisor in these various countries around the world, but I was also the resident operations manager. I lived in the country itself, where I was responsible for completing very large multinational or multi-million-dollar geophysical surveys, not only on land, but also in shallow water marine. My duties while running the operations in these assigned countries were to liaise with the governments and other stakeholders as well as the clients. And I was in charge of large marine fleets that we used for the geophysical operations, and I was responsible for their navigation systems as well as the land and helicopter portable operations. In recent years, I began surveying and mapping using manned aircraft and drones using photogrammetry and LiDAR, with some aerial systems I designed myself. I presently own a successful remote sensing company in British Columbia where we are involved in all types of geomatics projects in the US and Canada and around the world. Recently, I have developed my skills in interpreting INSAR data and creating interferometry-related products for clients. I'm able to process and look at deformation and uplifting areas throughout Canada, which is very valuable in the west where it's mountainous and still very young and growing. In my early career as a surveyor exploring for oil and gas in the north of Canada in the minus 60-degree weather, long before there was GPS and remote sensing, using a theodolite and taking notes with a high-tech device called a pencil. Do you remember using pencils or logbooks or for calculating coordinates? This was the era of using the sun and star observations to determine my azimuth in areas that were unmapped and in large part where no non-Indigenous person had ever been before. Canada is a vast land and there's still many unexplored areas. I'm thankful for this experience. It was challenging, but it was very rewarding. Throughout the years, I have embraced geomatics technology of all kinds and have trained and mentored many surveyors around the world in methods of using GPS and conventional total station surveying equipment. working in jungles, deserts, mountains, and in shallow water marine areas where our projects transitioned from the land to the water, and where hydrographical surveys were required to map sensitive ecosystems, reefs, and so on, and hazard underwater oil field equipment. I've even mapped a large hydrographical survey in northern Brazil where I mapped channels for large vessels and drilling platforms so that they could navigate their way very close to the shore. We're surveying points on islands and tributaries of the Amazon River in Ecuador and Peru. I have run survey networks in countries where there is very poor survey data, and I've spent many years designing and installing navigation equipment on vessels in the geophysical industry where I became proficient in navigating hydrology and marine mapping. I had to calculate water depths at theoretical intervals in a marine system area using tide gauges, tide charts, and tide monitors. And I wasn't working in some far-off country. I had a couple of land survey businesses here in British Columbia where we did cadastral surveys, topographic surveys, photogrammetry control, subdivisions, engineering, layout, roads, and so on, and any other types of surveying that you can think of. So why did I tell you all this, you may ask? I tell you all this to give you a reason to choose me as the Vice President for FIG due to my well-rounded background that I have in geomatics, from field surveyor to a business owner. It is because of these various disciplines that I can relate to the surveying professional around the world, because I have been there and done that, so to speak. As a Vice President of FIG, I can use my knowledge and skills to encourage the younger surveyors to stay with their chosen career, as it will take you on an adventure of a lifetime if you let it. We don't have to survey and navigate like the explorers and voyageurs in Canada used to, but we need to keep that sense of adventure and continue to learn our craft and apply them to the various disciplines available to the modern surveyor. I'm passionate about surveying, and I feel my experience will benefit the International Federation of Surveyors. One of this year's themes for the FIG Congress is volunteering for the future, and we have seen a distinct lack of volunteers in many areas, and especially when it comes to geospatial and geomatics. I believe a volunteer should be a mentor as well as providing their valuable time, and I am happy to do both. As a longtime member of the Canadian Institute of Geomatics, I volunteered to serve on the executive and served as president, and I am presently a committee member as well as the director of the British Columbia branch of CIG. I've been a volunteer board member of the Applied Science Technologists and Technicians of British Columbia for the past 4 years, and I'm also their geomatics subject matter specialist. I also volunteer to the Standards Council of Canada, where I am chairman of the Mirror Committee on Karst, working with member countries to develop ISO standards. The second theme of FIG Congress is geospatial excellence for better living. Here in Western Canada, and indeed in many parts of the world, we have experienced the effects of climate change, and we are seeing floods and fires and other natural disasters. Geospatial insight can help mitigate some of these effects of these disasters by using remote sensing technology and historic geospatial data to inform us of changes and provide means of planning so we can all live better lives, knowing there are alternatives to doing nothing. I am happy to say that I am working towards this end and developing systems and methods for hazard mapping here in Western Canada. So in summary, I want to thank the committee for their time today in reviewing my candidacy. I am honored to have the opportunity to become a more involved member of FIG, and look forward to your support as I pursue the position of Vice President of FIG for the 2023-2026 term. I see this as a great opportunity to show what Canada can do for the world of surveying. This nomination would be something Canada and the Canadian Institute of Geomatics can be proud of, and I believe I can offer my varied experience, enthusiasm, and management skills to FIG. I look forward to the challenge in a profession in which I continue to grow and learn. I am motivated and ready to accept the nomination of Vice President. Thank you for your time.